Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. Once a wandering monk was trying to clear his doubt how to realize that all the world is God. Maharishi told, if you make your outlook that of wisdom, you will find the world to be God. Without knowing the Supreme Spirit Brahman, how will you find his all pervasiveness? Someone inquired about the nature of perception. Maharishi told, whatever state one is in, the perceptions partake of that state. The explanation is that in the waking state, Jagrit, the gross body perceives gross names and forms. In Swapna, the dream state, the mental body perceives the mental creations in their manifold forms and names. In the Sushupti, deep dreamless sleep, the identification with the body being lost, there are no perceptions. Similarly, in the transcendental state, identity with Brahman places the man in harmony with everything, and there is nothing apart from his self. A question was asked as to the nature of happiness. Maharishi told, if a man thinks that his happiness is due to external causes and his possessions, it is reasonable to conclude that his happiness must increase and the increase of possessions and diminish in proportion to their diminution. Therefore, if he is devoid of possessions, his happiness should be nil. What is the real experience of man? Does it conform to this view? In deep sleep, the man is devoid of possessions, including his own body. Instead of being unhappy, he is quite happy. Everyone desires to sleep soundly. The conclusion is that happiness is inherent in man and is not due to external causes. One must realize his self in order to open the store of unalloyed happiness. Maharishi was asked by an educated young man, how do you say that the heart is on the right, whereas the biologists have found it to be on the left? The man asked for authority. Maharishi told, quite so, the physical organ is on the left, and that is not denied, but the heart of which I speak is non physical and is only on the right side. It is my experience, no authority is required by me. Still, you can find confirmation in a Malayalam Ayurvedic book and in Sita Upanishad, and he produced the quotation mantra from the later and repeated the text shloka from the former. Mr. M. Friedman, an engineer, remarked on the subject of grace, a salt doll diving into the sea will not be protected by a waterproof coat. It was a very happy simile and was applauded as such. Maharishi added, the body is the waterproof coat. A question was asked by a monk sannyasi about how to prevent the mind from being distracted. Maharishi told, you see the objects on forgetting your own self. If you keep hold of yourself, you will not see the objective world. When asked if occult powers, siddhis, can be achieved along with omnipotence, as mentioned in the last verse of Dakshinamurti Akshatam, Maharishi said, let omnipotence, Ishvara, be accomplished first, and then the other question may be raised. Can anyone get any benefit by repeating sacred mantras picked up casually? Maharishi told, no, he must be competent and initiated in such mantras. Maharishi illustrated this by the following story. A king visited his premier in his residence. There he was told that the premier was engaged in repetition of sacred japa. The king waited for him and on meeting him asked what the japa was. The premier said that it was the holiest of all, Gayatri. The king desired to be initiated by the premier, but the premier confessed his inability to initiate him. Therefore, the king learned it from someone else, and meeting the minister later, he repeated the Gayatri and wanted to know if it was right. The minister said that the mantra was correct, but it was not proper for him to say it. When pressed for an explanation, the minister called to a page close by and ordered him to take hold of the king. The order was not obeyed. The order was often repeated and still not obeyed. The king flew into a rage and ordered the same man to hold the minister, and it was immediately done. The minister laughed and said that the incident was the explanation required by the king. How? Asked the king. The minister replied, the order was the same and the executor also, but the authority was different. When I ordered, the effect was nil, whereas when you ordered, there was immediate effect. Similarly with mantras. Someone inquired, why is it said in scriptures that the sage is like a child? Maharishi said, a child and a sage, Jnani, are similar in a way. Incidents interest a child only so long as they last. It ceases to think of them after they have passed away, so then it is apparent that they do not leave any impression on the child and it is not affected by them mentally. So it is with the sage. A visitor asked how to realize oneself in accordance with Maharishi's instructions contained in his text of Truth Revealed, verse 9th supplement. The difficulty was in controlling the mind. Maharishi said, it is to be done by controlling the breath. If you practice it by yourself without other help, then the mind is controlled. Otherwise, the mind comes under control spontaneously in the presence of a superior power. Such is the greatness of association with the wise. Can destiny, karma, ever come to an end? Maharishi told. The karmas carry the seed of their own destruction in themselves. A man asked the Maharishi to say something to him. When asked what he wanted to know, he said that he knew nothing and wanted to hear something from the Maharishi. Maharishi told, you know that you know nothing. Find out that knowledge, that is liberation. Mr. M.A. Pigot, an English lady who had read Search in Secret India, came to see the Maharishi. The service of a disciple and interpreter was divided. There were many visitors at the time in the hall, including some ladies with their infants. The place resounded with noise. A length silence prevailed. Suddenly Maharishi, who seemed to be looking an infinite space, was heard to say softly, Monkey. A little baby was then discovered in the doorway, unobserved by the mother, who was seated on the other side of the door, with the large monkey standing on his hind leg, who with both hands was folding the child, not hurting it in the slightest, both being at peace with each other in Maharishi's presence. When Maharishi's voice was heard, the monkey jumped away adoratedly and disappeared. The incident greatly impressed the lady. Is a master necessary for realization? Mrs. Pigot asked first. Maharishi told, the realization is the result of the master's grace more than teachings, lectures, meditation, etc. They are only secondary aids, whereas the former is the primary and the essential cause. Devotee asked, what are the obstacles which hinder realization of the self? Maharishi told, they are habits of mind. Devotee asked how to overcome the mental habits. Bhagwan said by realizing the self. Devotee asked, that is a vicious circle. Maharishi told, it is the ego which raises such difficulties, creating obstacles, and then suffers from the perplexity of apparent paradoxes. Find out who makes the inquiries, and the self will be found. Devotee asked, what are the aids for realization? Bhagwan said, the teachings of the scriptures and of realized souls. Devotee asks, can such teachings be discussions, lectures, and meditations? Maharishi said, yes, all these are only secondary aids, whereas the essential is the Master's grace. Devotee asked, how long will it take for one to get that? Maharishi told, why do you desire to know? Devotee asked to give me hope. Maharishi told, even such a desire is an obstacle. The self is ever there. There is nothing without it. Be the self, and the desires and doubts will disappear. Such self is the witness in sleep, dream, and waking states of existence. These states belong to the ego. The self transcends even the ego. Did you not exist in sleep? Did you know then that you were asleep or unaware of the world? It is only in the waking state that you describe the experience of sleep as being unawareness. Therefore, the consciousness when asleep is the same as that when awake. If you know what this waking consciousness is, you will know the consciousness which witnesses all the three states. Such consciousness could be found by seeking the consciousness as it was in sleep. Hari Om Tat Sat.